What's going on, guys? Welcome back to PT Coffee Cast, brought to you by The Movement. My name is Dalton, and alongside me today is my beautifully bearded friend William. William, how are we doing today?
Doing good, but let's just hope we make it through this episode.
Why?
Hands shaking a little bit.
Bro, you are shaking.
A little bit too caffeine infused.
Infused?
Can't even talk. We'll see how it goes.
And now that we're doing a little bit more video, I lied to the people. I said, next to me is my beautifully bearded friend, but you're across from me.
Ooh. That's true. Some people might point that out.
You also may see, if you're watching this on video, if you're not, we have a guest on the show today who also has a pretty nice beard. He's beautifully bearded and has luscious locks. We're excited to have Eric on the show today. Eric is doing our mentorship program here at The Movement, and we wanted to have him on. He just recently graduated from physio school, so we want to have him on and give some perspectives into how it's been for him and what his experience has been like here from a mentorship perspective. So Eric, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. Excited to be here.
How many coffees have you had today?
To be quite honest, zero. I've just been drinking water.
Are you a coffee guy?
I like the taste, but I don't drink it regularly.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you admitted that on the show. Like, you didn't lie about it.
I know.
It's like, I am who I am.
Yeah, like I was PT Coffee Cast. I feel like, I should have brought my mug here. I didn't even know we were doing this today, but I could have my coffee mug right here. But no, yeah, I'm not a big coffee guy.
Do you like tea?
Yeah, that I can go for.
Okay.
Yeah.
What kind of tea are we talking?
Ooh. Favorite one probably is peppermint tea. I'm a peppermint and ginger. Yeah,
Me too.
Those are my go-tos.
I feel like you're kind of like a stoic person. You try to keep it kind of even keeled.
Yeah, I mean, there's some days where that doesn't quite happen, but for the most part, I try. Yeah, definitely. Try not to let too much bother me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why don't you give a little context into where you went to school, how long you've been out of school, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Do you want me to just start like with PT or even before that?
Wherever you want to take it, man.
Yeah, okay. I guess I'll start from the beginning. I graduated high school in 2009, did a victory lap, so started university September 2010, studied kinesiology, as I think most physios do, but not all. I did that at the University of Waterloo. I was there from 2010 to 2014. Took a few years off to work as a personal trainer and a registered kinesiologist later on, just to pay off my loans, kind of get some financial stability going a bit. Then I decided, it actually was interesting because right when I graduated from Waterloo, I didn't quite know what I wanted to do with kin. I had a few ideas. Physiotherapy was one of the ideas, but I thought maybe I'd want to go into like either policy or, recreation, or, there was a whole bunch of different things I was considering. So then as I was working and gaining experience, I moved back to Hamilton to work. And I kind of thought to myself, I want to apply to physiotherapy school. That was probably 3 years in to me working. So I applied. I didn't end up getting in, so I knew I had to, kind of improve my transcript a bit and get some more experience under my belt. So I thought to myself, how am I going to do this? So I decided to do a master's in kin at the University of Toronto. I think at that point, I was a second year of round of students, so the program was very new. It started just a year before me. So I did that that was a 16-month program that basically took me to the end of December 2018. And then I applied to physio school again after that for the September 2019, got in, and the University of Toronto again, and graduated. Because of COVID, it extended that a little bit, but graduated middle of October of just this past year, 2021. So it's been a little bit of a journey.
Yeah, man, I love it.
Yeah.
I think we all did victory laps here, right?
Yep.
The V-Lap crew.
We had a similar journey, but I think I had applied to physio school two times.
Yeah.
Before I got in, and I took a year in between high school and undergrad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just felt like I needed that just for that extra little bout of maturity, I didn't feel ready to start undergrad right after grade 12.
Oh, bro, yeah.
Yeah.
Same. I went back to play football.
Yeah, yeah.
and upgrade the biomark.
Yeah, there you go.
It's funny because I also had to upgrade my biomark. I just find that hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same thing.
So many similarities.
Yeah.
Except my beard. What did do you feel like that time between undergrad, doing the masters, doing some personal training, like how much did that influence your PT school experience, or did it influence your PT school experience?
No, yeah, that was, for me, it was absolutely huge having that under my belt, because when I got in, I was one of the older guys in the class. There was a few others around my age, but I would have been 28 when I got in, yeah, and I think the average age was like 23, so most of the students were about 5 years younger than me. I had maybe a handful, 5 or 6 people close to my age, or were my age. And I could just tell, like, you know, as you progressed through schooling and going through the courses and that, you know, you can kind of tell people who jumped right from undergrad into PT school versus people who took some time off and had some experience, just because, I don't know, just in like subtle ways, just like, you know, what we worried about, how we stressed, you know, how we kind of approached learning. But for me, definitely having that experience allowed me to really kind of go through this program in a more kind of detailed approach, I guess, and trying not to worry about some of the small things, sweat the small stuff. And it allowed me to kind of help mentor some of the younger people in my class for sure, and just kind of relay my experiences to them and just kind of help them get through some tough times, especially during exam season. You know, it was definitely, you know, a lot of mentorship and trying to teach people, you know, don't worry, focus on the practical things. Don't worry so much on certain theoretical smaller things, you know, focus on the bigger picture.
Yeah, I wonder if that time for you, because I think you're somebody who isn't in a rush necessarily, because you sort of know what you want and you're okay with that taking a bit of time.
Yeah, like, it's definitely something I've been thinking about a lot the past few years. And that's the one thing that people always tell you is, especially being in PT school, they're like, when you graduate, don't just like jump at the first job offer you get, you know, take your time, really know what you want. And so I put a lot of thought into that. And even PT itself, like, it's such a broad field. You can do so many different things with the skills that we have. And so, you know, I really thought to myself, how do I want to, you know, use these sets of tools that I have, or what sets of tools do I even want to, you know, acquire, right? Because you don't need to have every tool in the toolbox, right? You just need the ones that are going to be pertinent to your field. So I definitely took a lot of time, did a lot of thinking outside of class and that on my own. And yeah, that's the one thing that stuck with me, is just never rush into anything. Make sure you know you want it before you jump in.
I would be curious to hear what that process looked like for you, because I don't think it's the norm. Like, I think maybe it's changed a little bit since we were in school, but I don't think it's the norm. I think people want to rush in, maybe not want to, feel this pressure to rush into a job. Maybe they have to go into a job because of financial situations. Yeah. You know, there's certain circumstances. But to take time to reflect on what you really want and what type of tools or things you want to learn, I don't know. I'm hoping it's becoming more common, but I don't know how common it is. So I would love to hear like your process, because I think that could be helpful for people who maybe are in your situation right now, or heading out of PT school and are kind of freaking out on like what to do.
Yeah, no, you're bang on. Like, it's definitely not the norm. And even like, so I graduated in October, and what is it now, March? So, you know, most people are like, hey, like, what's, you know, parents and whatever, like, what are you doing?
You're gonna use that degree?
Yeah, like, well, like, what are you doing? And you know, so it's definitely not the norm, but it's something that doesn't really bother me, because I know it's the way that I do things. But yeah, the process, I guess, for me, like, it started even when I was in school, and even before I got into physio school. It was, I guess, speaking outside of class time and being actually immersed in the field, gaining experience. For me, it was a lot of just sitting down and I don't know, this might sound corny, but it was a lot of sitting down and actually meditating and doing a lot of kind of deep thinking about, you know, who kind of am I? What do I want? What kind of, and actually I know me and you talk a lot about principles, like guiding principles. So I kind of put some stock into that too. It's like, how do I want to live my life principle wise? What kind of interests do I have? Even outside the field, because a lot of those interests can come in and play, right? In terms of what you do at your line of work as well. So actually it was a lot of like, yeah, just really sitting down quietly, reflecting, meditating, thinking about what interests I have. And then on top of that, you know, trying to get as much experience as you can doing different things. So when I was in my Masters of Kin, you know, I did a lot of varying activities. It was like working with people with CVD, you know, heart problems, right? Working with cancer patients, you know, working in different kinds of settings, doing some of the high athlete, you know, intense, high level athlete population. So I think the more that you can kind of throw yourself into different areas and try not to be too prejudiced before you jump in, because you might not know you like something, or you might not know you don't like something, right? So I think it was a combination of really trying to gain as much experience in different avenues as I could, and really just sitting and taking the time to reflect, to do that. And for me, what came out of it personally is I think the biggest thing is I just want to make a real impact in somebody's life, and in more of a performance way for myself personally. I like to have, you know, athletic goals. I'm a big runner. So I think trying to bring that to people and try to help them do that is what came out of my process for me.
Yeah, that's super insightful, man, because like, and yeah, as much as the meditation sounds corny, I think it's a good process, whether that be like actually sitting down to meditate, whether that be going for walks, being out in nature. Like there's so many different ways you can get into that situation, right?
Yeah.
You know, running's a good way to do it. So
Yeah.
I think it's super insightful for you to say that, and bringing like, not just looking at like physio, but what do you want out of your life? What do you want? What principles are you trying to live by? Like those kind of things definitely impact your career. And I think it's cool that you're trying to merge those two in a sense and make sure that they align, because I think that leads to something that's, you know, very fulfilling. And I think that's what we try to do here with the mentorship program. And I know Will's probably taking you through it. Like, we want to know what your life goals are. We want to know more about you personally, your principles, how you view the world, because that's important to how we have you interact here, right? If we know like, hey, I want to work with runners and I want to bring that performance aspect because that's important to my life. It's like, cool, how do we provide an environment for Eric to succeed in those things? So the fact that you have thought about that and know that's super cool, because it allows, one, you know, for you to guide yourself to those places, but also it makes it a lot easier for, let's say, people like us to be like, oh, cool, this is what we know Eric's going to thrive on. Let's figure out how we can work that into what we do here.
Yeah, definitely. That's the one thing that stuck out for me right away is, you know, Will's obviously been my main man in the mentorship program, but, you know, the one thing that stuck out for me was, you know, you're not just a physiotherapist. Like, of course, we have to, you know, have those skills, be a good physiotherapist, but what other aspects of your life can you bring to the table here? You know, what other interests, skills do you want to develop, or do you have that can kind of help us, you know, grow the business or just have some fun and, you know, promote just general movement in the community.
Go ahead, you have something? What were some of your, like, I don't even know if fear is the right word, but like, what were some of your fears, or are your fears or concerns or things that you've been thinking about coming out of physio school and entering into the practice as a new grad?
Yeah, you know, my whole kind of course through physio school, especially my placements, I had some really good CIs, so I had some really good mentorship through the course of my schooling there. But, you know, the one thing that always kept coming up is more just like not being taken advantage of, kind of. So, you know, just watching out for, you know, places taking advantage of new grads in the sense of, you know, we're gonna have you do all this work, whatever, and not be compensated or, you know, appropriately treated in these different settings. So that was one thing that the professors kind of touched on a little bit as well, but just the kind of the mentors that I had really touched on, because that was kind of one of the common fears that a lot of people had. And I guess kind of relating to that is like, you know, in terms of like splits for commission or something, right? Like I know we had some few different clinics come in and talk to us about their philosophies and how they compensate physiotherapists. And so it's a big world out there. People do it so many different ways. Every clinic is so different. So just, you know, knowing what's your value and what you consider fair, and, you know, how the employee or the employers are going to look at you, right? I think that was a big one.
To make sure like your only purpose as a part of the team is not just like a money making machine.
Yeah, exactly. It's just, you know, you want to be able to have some time to have lunch, right? You don't want to be being run into the ground 8-9 hours a day, and it's like just go, one patient after the next. And you know, some physios, especially coming out of school, they might think that's normal, or they might want that, and that's fine too if you're a really high energy person and you just want to go. But I think for the most part, you know, people just have to realize what they want and then realize their own value before jumping into something.
And that there's places that actually do care about providing that type of work environment. You know, not every place is so short-sighted.
Yeah, definitely. You know, it's seeing the good from the not so good, and that might look different from person to person, but yeah, definitely.
On that note, like what kind of things, like after doing like your reflection and kind of understanding what you want and all that stuff, what kind of things have you considered when looking for places to work? Because you've been patient, right? And I think that's an interesting thing. Again, we talk about how a lot of people will rush into it, and you know, obviously you're going through our mentorship program here, so you know, there's stuff that you thought was cool that you wanted to explore here, but like not necessarily biasing towards that. It's like, what kind of were you looking for as you were trying to find a place?
Yeah, no, definitely. For me, like quality of life is number one. So, you know, I don't want to be feeling like I'm kind of burning the candle at both ends, so to speak. Yeah. So, you know, quality of life. So if I have, you know, maybe let's say I work 6-7 hours a day, right? You know, during the course of those 6-7 hours, do I get a couple breaks to, I'm a food driven guy. I like food, you know, I need to fuel. So
you and Will
yeah,
get along really well.
This is why we get along so well.
Exactly. I feel like we just have a lot of similar characteristics.
Yeah, we saw each other, we're like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
There's something here.
Yeah, I remember that. So, you know, just making sure there is appropriate time to fuel up and just take like a de-stress break. You know, it doesn't have to be super long, but, you know, even just a short amount of time helps. Definitely working with people who value, how am I going to say this? But
like value their health.
Yeah, value their health, value the health of their employees, right? And understand that, you know, employees who have high, you know, bringing up the morale will increase productivity for sure, and just your ability to kind of do the job. So I think definitely quality of life is number one for me. And obviously, like, I like to train outside of my work hours, so I still want to be able to have some time to do that. And I want to be able, in terms of more of a specific physio sense, you know, I like working with people who are a little bit more motivated to have those kind of more athletic focused goals. And, you know, that seems to be the general population that comes through here. And so I just want to be able to help them achieve their goals in that way.
It's so cool to hear you talking about this, because I think it's something that people don't think about as much. You know, they do maybe think about some of the compensation stuff that you were mentioning, like how much am I going to make, you know, that sort of thing. But they don't necessarily think about how important it is to fit in with the culture of the company that you're signing on with. And that's the kind of stuff that you're talking about, which I think people maybe don't think about as much before they jump into something.
Yeah, it's so true. And even just with your coworkers or your bosses, you know, like do you guys you know, have similar interests, because if you do, then that's, you know, it's a little bit of a slight advantage, you know, for bonding and fitting into the culture and creating a really solid family-like kind of community with where you work. And for me, even outside of work too, you know, I want to be able to still have some time to live a few hours outside, because if I couldn't train regularly, I'd be devastated. You know, I would be miserable, and then that might kind of manifest and start coming into work, right? And that's just not good all around.
Yeah, no, I think it's good. It's always good to hear these things on our end as well, because we're trying to create an environment like that, you know. And it's always good to, like, we know why we're doing it, but it's always good to hear like that those things are important to you. And I think they are becoming more important to new grads and students that come out. And when, you know, we look at the bigger vision of the movement, which is to change the way people view healthcare, it's on a lot of levels, right? Like, that's on how we impact, like how we actually work with people, how people take more of an active, proactive approach. But not only that, how do we as a business in healthcare change how people operate within that model, right? And that is what, you know, you're talking about, where it's not just about burning you out, it's about providing you with opportunities to thrive on things you want to thrive on, provide you with opportunities to explore other options outside of just treating. Like, hey, do you want to do a podcast? Like, let's try to facilitate that. Oh, do you want to create content or you get value out of that? Cool. Oh, you like running? Let's try to provide you with an opportunity to interact with runners, right? And that's going to keep you more fulfilled and more focused on moving forward in the profession. And at the same time, we want to compensate you well, so that you don't have to be stressing about seeing a bunch of people or freaking out that you're not going to be able to make rent or something like that, you know? Yeah, no,
I agree with you 100%. And I think, you know, you kind of talked about the model a little bit of like the healthcare model. And, you know, that's another thing that was super important to me is, you know, how much, I guess, time are we getting with the patient, you know, in a session? What kind of freedoms do we have to be able to use or to help them, right? Actually, that's kind of what I meant a little bit when I said make an impact. You know, I don't want to, for me personally, I can't speak for everybody, but for me personally, you know, being kind of rushed and seeing someone for 20 minutes doesn't make me feel like I've made as much of an impact as if, you know, you're able to see them for 45 minutes, you're able to see them for an hour. You can really talk through the whole process, recap what happened last time, you know, how was your week, you know, and then jump into the session and actually progress things. And that takes time, right? So yeah, that's another thing, is how are we interacting with the client, which is huge.
What has been something, like one of the maybe takeaways or things that you've learned from being here, and more specifically going through the stuff that you've gone through with Will?
Yeah, no, I mean, like, my experience here has been amazing. You know, I think the first thing that stuck out to me is just kind of the quality of care you guys provide and the level of care you have for your clients. And so that really stuck to me. And going through the mentorship with Will, he's really kind of, you know, kind of carved, like you said earlier, used my interest to kind of carve out a niche and say, hey, you know, we can use you here. So you feel like a valued member of the team. And we've done some, you know, recaps on, you know, just more nitty gritty physio things, you know, bone stress injuries, tendon stuff. So that's always good to go over and refresh and keep your knowledge sharp. And yeah, just being able to like do these podcasts, come to the workshops too. You know, there's a whole bunch of opportunities abound for me and for all of you guys, it seems like. And so for me, it seems like there's a lot of growth here. It's not like we're kind of hit the ceiling, we're just kind of chilling there now and we're not really going anywhere. It seems like there's a lot of growth here, which really has been made evident by you guys and really stuck to me, which is
100% agree with that. Yeah, I think there's also some stuff, like we've definitely done some conversations about like some of the specific sort of as you said, like your kind of like niche, like running kind of area, but I think we've also talked about some sort of non-clinical stuff, I think. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, okay.
Things like delivering a plan.
Yeah, okay. Kind of like,
Yeah, before you go into that,
yeah.
I feel like Eric's like, is he like talking about like the beers that we have?
Yeah, that's what I'm like, wait, what non-clinical stuff?
Like, what are we talking about?
I guess it is clinical, non-treatment specific stuff.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to use the word business, but yeah, like delivering a plan, how you kind of break it down, different kind of principles to use, how to interact with the client, how to make it easy for them to kind of see the plan laid out. So I definitely appreciate some of those aspects as well, and more so even going into some of the business oriented stuff like psychology of sales and all of those things. It's been quite interesting and quite helpful, I think.
Yeah, because those types of things aren't necessarily like covered, when you're going through school.
Yeah, they're trying to make more of an effort to do that now because they realize, okay, more people want to be entrepreneurs. There's, I guess, more of a percentage of people want to come out and eventually open up their own practice. So for us at U of T, it was an option to take as an elective, and it was like a 2-week course, so they can still do
By our boy Daryl Yardley.
Daryl Yardley?
I think he used to do the business stuff at Toronto.
Oh, no way.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, because I did that one. It wasn't him when I went through it. So
Maybe he retired.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but it was, I think it was a 2-week course, so they can still do some work to kind of integrate that learning more, but I think that's just as important as learning the clinical stuff, right?
Yeah.
And I think like outside of the business stuff, just how to like create a good session. Like, how do you set up a session? What does that look like? How do you interact with your client? How do you set up a plan and make sure that they fulfill through that plan? And where are your touch points with that person along the way? Like, I feel, and like, again, we talked about this many times as to why maybe physio school doesn't integrate a lot of those things, but those are so key and something that we've gained a lot of insight around over the last couple of years. And now like it's a big part of what we continue to refine ourselves, but also try to pass on to people we're mentoring, new physios that we bring on staff. And I think that's super valuable.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. I mean, client experience and client interaction is just as important, if not even more important than some of the nitty-gritty physio things that you learn, because at the end of the day, they don't care if like what nerve innervates the bicep femoris. Like, I mean, you should know that, but they're just going to remember if they had a good experience or a bad experience, and how you interacted with them, how the other employees, like maybe the front desk staff, interacts with them, how the space looks like, how much you seem to care, right? And that can be shown in many different ways. So that is probably one of the most important things to be able to learn. And you're right, you kind of get that more after you graduate. They kind of touch on it here and there in school, but that's more stuff you have to learn when you're actually in work and saying, oh, so this is how you guys set up your clinic. Oh, this is your guiding principles here. Oh, okay. So you kind of try to piece that together afterwards.
What are some things you want to continue to learn, or areas of growth that you feel like you have for yourself, or maybe that we can help facilitate?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I obviously want to continue to expand my running knowledge, running rehab, and even in a training sense too, optimizing training plans, learning the physiological, getting more into the physiological side of what happens, during, specific workouts and stuff like that, and then being able to apply that to create a bigger overall plan. And rehabbing running injuries as well. I mean, it was huge for us going through bone stress injuries, and you gave me a whole bunch of resources to look through there, and that was super valuable as well. So I want to be able to expand kind of my knowledge and how to interact with the running population. But on top of that, I kind of want to, like, I think I was telling you earlier, like, as much as I want running to be like my main thing, you know, there's still, I don't want to only be like the guy that works with runners. Like I'd still like to work with the general population, people who are just trying to lose some weight, people who might want to, you know, advance a little bit in weightlifting and things like that. So, you know, really just trying to hone in those skills and develop the tools, because obviously after you graduate, you have to go through, you don't have to, but you should be able to pick and choose what modalities you want to gain certifications in. So definitely kind of honing in, okay, this is going to be valuable for me. Like maybe I need to learn a dry needling skill, so I'm going to take a course for that. So that's something that I've been thinking about as well, and we've talked about briefly, and you know, something that I really need to just hone in and say, okay, these are the ones that are going to be most valuable for me. Let's keep learning about these techniques and how I can use them.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. And I think the fact that you've kind of bring it around full circle, like the fact that you've thought about that stuff and identified what you want. Now you sit in a position like, okay, cool, I have a good idea of what I want to do. How do I now build off of that to make sure that I have the skills, whether that be learning a little bit more about run training, a little bit more about how bone stress injuries respond, a little bit more about how dry needling can help impact someone who's recovering from a running related injury, like whatever that may be. You can now, you know, layer those courses on there, that continuing education, all that stuff. So that's cool.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously exercise is the biggest thing, and so I feel like you can always continue to learn about, you know, rehab exercises and how to load and, you know, how to optimally manage different conditions through exercise, which you guys, that's another big thing of what drew me to you guys, is your focus on active engagement, getting the client actively engaged in their sessions.
Love it. You got anything else, man?
No, I think I'm good.
Eric, do you got anything else? You got anything else you want to touch on? Any thoughts?
Oh man, yeah.
Any questions for us, man?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I mean, you know, I kind of talking somewhat calm, but inside my mind's like, you know, trying to think of all these different points to touch on and hit, and try not to forget anything. But yeah, no, I don't know. I guess.
It's all right, man.
Yeah,
it's all good.
Yeah.
I
sometimes I just need a little prompt, maybe, but I don't know.
No, dude, you've been crushing it. I think we have to give a shout out to your boy, though.
Yeah, definitely. I was thinking about him all session. So, Anthony, thank you for you know, introducing me to these guys. You know, I hope you're doing well at your clinic in Mississauga and at the hospital. And you know, I cannot thank you enough for setting this up and getting my career started off the ground. So I hope all's going well, and hope we, you know, run into each other sometime down the road.
Dude, PT Coffee Cast legend there.
Canadian physio student.
Yeah.
Does he have the same name still?
I think they got their. We're gonna have to get them back on, because I
Yeah.
think they have a new thing going on. But yeah, he was a former guest, and he's been awesome. And it just comes back to, and we talk about the power of social media and why we've leveraged it so much, and how everything we've built basically here has come from relationships that we've built through social media and the brand and all that stuff. And this is just another example of that, where, you know, Anthony's connecting us with Eric, who's been great to have around, and has definitely helped, you know, continue to level us up here. So it's so cool to see that.
Yeah, and I mean, he's been a great mentor, and you know, he really made my experience that much more positive when I was doing my placement at Credit Valley Hospital. So, you know, I owe a lot to him, and yeah.
Cool. Well, shout out, guys. I think that's it. That was a good episode. I'm getting the jitters now, man. So
Yeah.
I think it's time to
My eyes twitching.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But thanks for tuning in, guys. If you aren't following us on Instagram, head over there, follow us, BT Coffee Cast. If you aren't subscribed to the podcast, make sure you subscribe on all podcast platforms. We're on YouTube now, so if you want to watch us, see our beautiful faces, see the beautiful beard of Will, the beautiful beard of Eric, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, tune in there. Yeah, that's all we got. Cheers.